Hey y'all, I hope you're enjoying this sunny Sunday afternoon. This is going to be our fourth virtual drama club lesson. We're going to start the way that we always start our virtual drama club lessons, and that's with a check-in. So my check-in question for you today is something called, what is your rose, your thorn, and your bud from the past week? So a rose is something good that happened to you in the last week, or something that you're grateful for. So a rose, again, is something that you're grateful for, something good that happened in the last 7 days. The next part of this check-in is called your thorn. So your thorn, kind of the opposite of your rose, is maybe something challenging, something difficult, maybe something stressful from this past week that was hard for you. And with the thorn, you can choose to say pass. So you never have to share your thorn if you don't want to. But again, if you do, thorn is something difficult, something hard from this past week, a low from this past week. The last part of this check-in is called the bud. So a bud from your past week is something that you're excited about, that's going to happen in the future. So maybe something got started this week, or you met someone new, but your bud is something that you're excited about as you look forward into the future. So take a second, think about what your rose would be from this last week, a high, what your thorn would be, a low from this past week, and what your bud would be, something that you're excited about looking forward into the future. Take a few minutes, think of those things for yourself, write them down if you'd like to, record a video of you sharing those things, and then either send that video to me, write your thoughts in the comments below where this video is posted, or in a separate Google Doc that you can send in to me while you're working through this virtual lesson video. After you've taken a second to get your rose, your bud, or your rose, your thorn, and your bud, we're gonna end our check-in with our usual ritual in. So, the way ritual in works, again, review if this is your first video. You say your name, and then in one word, just one word, something that's distracting you in this moment as you're watching this video. Something that's from the outside world or from your life outside of drama club that's distracting you, that's weighing on your shoulders. So for example, my ritual in today could be Mr. Walker, sunshine, Mr. Walker, politics, Mr. Walker, drama, anything like that. So again, it's just your name, and then in one specific word, something that's distracting you, keeping you from being fully focused and present for this virtual lesson. So take a sec. Think of what your one word would be, and then when you have a moment, you can put that word in the comments below, or you can put it in that separate Google Doc that you'll be working in throughout this virtual lesson. Again, you can also record a video of you sharing your ritual in. I always love to see people's faces and their expressions, so you can share your ritual in that way, whatever you prefer, whatever's most exciting for you. With our ritual in finished, we're going to move into the main activity section of our lesson. We're going to start with a game called This Is Not A. Now, you can play this game along with me, or once you get the hang of the rules and sort of the basic structure of the game, you can play it with family members that you live with in your house or your apartment. You can play it with friends over Google Meet or Zoom or FaceTime, whatever you like. This game, This Is Not A, is again all about imagination and bringing objects to life that aren't actually there, using our imagination, our concentration skills, as well as really detailed physical movements. So, the way this game begins, you begin with an ordinary object, like a pencil, a Ticonderoga pencil, or, a remote, or anything else, some everyday common object that you have lying around the house. I'm going to demonstrate quickly, and then I'll kind of walk through the specific rules of the game. But this is what it looks like. This is not a pencil, this is a telescope. Or, this is not a pencil, this is a... Do you have any guesses what this second object might be? It's a mustache. Or, this is not a pencil, this is a... Hello? Or, this is not a pencil, this is a... Are you kind of catching on? The trick of the game is to create imaginary objects that are anything but what the object actually is. So the only object that I can't turn this into is a pencil, but I can, using my imagination, turn this into whatever kind of object I like. And so the game goes back and forth between people or around a circle, where everyone takes this common object and then imagines and brings it to life as if it's some other object. And the only rule is, the only object you can't say that it is the thing that it is, aka a pencil. But you can turn it into whatever you want. Get creative with it. Just like the activity that we did in our last virtual lesson, which was the object transformation, where we brought objects to life and then passed them back and forth. Same basic idea. Get creative, think quickly. It doesn't have to be perfect. The first thing that pops into your mind, turn the pencil or whatever you're using into that imaginary object. I'm going to demonstrate this activity one more time, and this time we're going to use this object, which of course is a remote for a light, but I'm going to play it as if I'm playing with you in real time. So I'm going to pretend and bring to life an imaginary object with this object, and then I'm going to give you a second as if I'm passing it off to you, and then you'll do it, and then I'll wait a few seconds, and then I'll start doing it again, and that way we'll kind of get a rhythm going of passing it back and forth. The good thing about playing along with me too is I'm going to move pretty quickly, so that will force you to just come up with something. Because often with this game, we get in our heads and we think, what's an object that I can turn this into? But the whole point of this game, and what this game pushes us to do, is to think on our feet and to just work from impulse, which is really important for actors. We got to be quick on our toes. Okay, let's jump into it. This is not a remote. This is a... Here you go. Thank you. And remember, when you get it, all you have to do is say, this is not a remote, it is a, and then bring that imaginary object to life. But I'm sure what you just did was amazing. Okay, my turn again. This is not a remote, this is a... Have any guesses what it was? Keep going. I want to see what you come up with now. Thank you. This is not a remote. This is a... You get the idea. So, again, with someone who lives with you or with someone over FaceTime, Zoom, Google Meets, you can play this activity. You can pick again that ordinary household object and then just keep going back and forth, turning that into anything that you wish, as long as it isn't the actual object. I'd love to see what you come up with, so while you're doing this activity, either on your own or with friends and family, if you're comfortable, take a video of you playing this game, of you doing this activity, and submit it to me on Google Drive. Or you can write your thoughts about what this game was like for you. What was difficult about this game while you were playing it? What was easy? What felt very natural? Maybe another reflection question you could answer in that Google Doc that you're developing could be, what do you think are the tools and strategies that you need to really succeed at this simple game? This next activity is called Sound and Motion. And it's all about using our body and our voice in expressive, creative, energized ways. Because as actors, I always say that we have 3 core tools. And the actor's three core tools are the body, the voice, and our imagination. Using those three things, we bring characters and worlds and stories to life in a way that keeps the audience on the edge of their seats, keeps them believing that what's happening on stage is actually real and is actually happening. So this next activity, as I mentioned, gets us working with our body and our voice in expressive, creative ways, which again is essential for actors. So the way this is going to work is we're just going to think of an ordinary movement or motion and some kind of sound to go with that. So we're coming up with a movement and a sound. For example, it could look like this. Boop, boop, boop. Pretty simple, not too silly. The key is just to make it a movement and a sound that you can repeat, that is repeatable, that you can keep doing over and over and over without getting too exhausted or stretched thin or uncomfortable. So an example of another sound and motion or movement that I could do is shh, 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 shh. I want you to notice how much energy I had even when the movements were small in my body. For example, my movement and sound could have been shh, 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 which kind of feels pretty lifeless. There's no energy, but it totally changes it when I put energy and commitment into my body like this. Shh, shh, shh. That's the kind of energy that you want to watch on stage. So, in your space, wherever you happen to be, I'd like you to think of a motion and a sound that you can do, that you can repeat over and over. So I'm going to give you a minute to think of what your motion and your sound may be. After you've done that, come up with a second pair of a sound and a movement. Make it different from the first sound and movement that you came up with. If in the first one you just used your hands, try using your whole upper body this time, or your whole lower body. And then once you've got that second sound and motion, come up with a third one. And again, I challenge you, use a different part of your body. Use a different sound from your voice. Use different levels. Use different shapes with your body, just like we explored last time in our lesson on shape making. What we're going to do now is something I call sound and motion progression. So we're just going to keep building on this idea of this activity of bringing a sound and motion to life. The way it's going to work is we're going to start with a sound and motion. We're going to pass it back and forth. So I'll do it, and then I'll give time for you to do it, and then I'll do it again, and then we'll just go back and forth a few times. I'm going to say that for this time, for this round, our sound and motion is shh, shh, shh. Okay, so let's begin. I'll start, pass it to you, and then it'll come back to me, and we'll just do it a few times. And again, you can just do this along with the video while you're watching. Shh, shh. Now your turn. Good. I assume you were doing it in whatever space you were in, and I hope it was fun and a little bit silly. Now, we're going to build in intensity. So we're going to start with a really soft and gentle version of our movement and sound, but each time we pass it back and forth, we're going to make it bigger, more intense, more energized. So every time it ping-pongs back and forth, it gets bigger, it gets bolder, it gets huger. You get the picture? Okay, let's just jump into it and try it and see how it goes. Shh, your turn. Make it a little bit bigger. I can't see you, but I assume you're doing it beautifully. Okay, every time it gets a little bigger. Shh, your turn. Make it bigger. Now my turn again. Shh. Now your turn. Make it even bigger. Shh. Can you make it even bigger than I just did it? Now my turn again. Shh. Can you make it even bigger? Can you one-up me even further with your energy and bigness? Again, I can't see you, but I hope you're going all out and I hope you're having fun. Let's try one more variation of sound and motion. This time, instead of getting progressively bigger and more energized with our sound and motion, this time we're gonna move from one emotion or feeling to a different, totally opposite feeling. I'll explain. So when we begin, we're gonna do the motion and the sound, and the feeling behind it is gonna be joy. Joy. But each time we ping pong and pass it back and forth, we're gonna move towards sadness. So it's gonna go from joy to deep sadness. And again, we're doing the same basic movement and sound, but each time we go back and forth and do it, it's going to get a little less joyful and more and more and more sad progressively. Okay, I'll start. Let's try it. Shh. Now your turn. Make it a little more sad. Just a little. My turn again. Shh. A little bit more sad each time. Shh. Shh. Your turn. Shh. Your turn. Can you make it even more sad than I just did it? My turn. Can you make it even more sad? Even a little bit step further of sadness? Good. I just want to take a minute to reflect, and you can respond to these reflection questions in the comments below this video, in a separate Google Doc, or in like a video vlog thing that you sent to me when you finish working through this lesson. But my first reflection question is, how was that for you? Like, how did you feel in your body? Like, what was running through your mind while you were doing this activity along with me? And you can be totally honest. If it was wonderful for you and energizing, you can say that. Or if it was a little funky and strange to use your body and your voice expressively like that, you can also say that. I kind of want to hear your honest reflections on what this activity was like for you as you were doing it. My second reflection question for you is, as you were watching me in that very last version we did, and as you were doing it yourself, what did you notice about what communicated a certain feeling? In other words, what did you see me do in the way I used my body for the movement and the way I used my voice that showed you that I was getting more and more sad? What did you see me do? What did you hear me do that showed that ever-increasing sadness? That movement from joy to grief to depression. What was it I did? And at the same time, what was it you noticed yourself starting to do to show sadness using your body? Did your posture change? Did the tone and the quality of your voice change? Like, did it start high and then get low? Did your sort of physicality and the way you were doing the movement change? Because, for example, for me, I noticed that the sadder I got, the slower this movement got. It still had energy, but it was slow. And that starts to communicate sadness. We're going to wrap it up there. An activity that we can do beyond this is called machine, and it builds on this same idea of sound and motion. So if you were kind of intrigued by this, if you thought this was fun, come to Drama Club this week, because in Drama Club this week, we're going to be playing machine, and we're going to be getting really creative and inventive and expressive with it, and it's going to be a blast, and I would love to see you there in general. Just as an announcement, we meet every day, Monday through Friday, from 4 to 5 p.m. We play games, we do scenes, we act, we're dramatic, we're expressive, but it's also a very low-key, fun space, and I'd love to see you there. So, on that note, we're going to end with our ritual out, which again, for ritual out, if you're new, if this is your first video lesson, we say our name, and then in one word, we share something that we're going to remember from today's virtual class. So our name, and in one word, something we're going to remember from today's virtual class. So for example, I could say Mr. Walker, shh. It can also be a sound. I forgot to say that. It can be a word or a sound. Or I could say Mr. Walker, expressiveness. But take a sec, think of what your word would be. And when you've got it, again, you can share it in a little video message, you can put it in the comments below, or you can write it in a separate Google Doc. I hope you had fun. It was so joyful to get to share this virtual asynchronous lesson with you, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.